So I'm just gonna take a page for what and maybe just switch up slightly on what Dieter just said, because frankly I'm a little shocked to hear it actually. In this day and environment, in this day and age that we're living in, that somebody would come in driven solely by the elucidation of a molecular target, and I assume this is a elucidation of a molecular target that's not in. It's not breakthrough biology in some disease that's intractable because those deals still do happen. But somebody comes in with a molecular target looking downstream to a therapeutic, as John says, in building a drug that from the early stage doesn't look differentiated. I mean, is that, are you all still seeing that? Are you all that's still common?
Well, I think that speaks to your slide when it says how many programs are out there and how many deals are being done. Sort of there's 85% out there that still is not being thought about. Because it's also the nature of the companies and who's running the companies. Sort of, if it's the early scientists, they're still very science focused, as opposed to sort of thinking, now I've got to think like a business person. So there's a whole spectrum of companies out there as to who is thinking long term and who is thinking about the science.
But let me go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just going to reflect on the reimbursement landscape, what you said. I don't know if people in the room are aware that since, I think, 2 years in Germany, we have a commission where you actually have to show data that you differentiate positively against standard of care in order to get reimbursement. Otherwise, you end up basically with a generic reimbursement. And recently, I don't recall which company, basically they pulled out and will not go to the market in Germany because they did not convince this board that they actually bring benefit to the patient compared to what is available.
James,
I was going to say, but let's be clear here. When most of these deals are getting done preclinically, because biotech companies can't raise enough capital to get the product through proof of concept on the whole, the attrition rate is getting higher. That's, I think, the biggest change in our industry over the past 10 years has been a dramatic increase in attrition rate. And with that, and attrition affects biotech and pharma equally. I don't think there's any data suggesting attrition rates are any lower or higher in one versus the other. With that, the amount of money it takes, as you pointed out in your slide, to get a product towards proof of concept now is so high that most investors won't allow a biotech company to dilute itself to that degree because they can't make anywhere near, the investors can't make anywhere near their quote 3x return if the amount of invested capital is $200 or $300 million. So with that attrition rate, the deals are getting done earlier because they have to be done earlier. Fewer things are getting to the clinic that are unencumbered, and only the ones that are made to the clinic are the ones that couldn't get partnered earlier, or a few gems that have managed to finance themselves well, or the lucky, which still exists. And so with that, you're seeing the partnerships happening earlier, and at that time, it's very difficult to predict what the commercial placement of the molecule is going to be. So if you're in cancer, for instance, you may have a target that you think is going to be more effective than an existing therapy, but you don't actually know until you get it into the clinic and test it. And so yes, we're seeing molecules that are being considered for their science, but it's not as though they're ignoring the marketplace. They're saying we don't know what it is yet until we can test it in a comparative way in man, and that's usually done by the partner.